So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're actually unbagging, I suppose, Rifles in the Peninsula. And this is from Tiny Battle Publishing, and this is part of the Rifles In series. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. So they did Rifles in the Ardennes, they did Rifles in the Pacific recently. Those are both World War II games. This is something that's actually very different. So we're going Peninsula War, so this is Napoleonics, and this is liberation of Spain from the invading and occupying French. So this is a solitaire game, and it's designed by Gaetano Zancani. The rules, I don't remember the rules being this big, so hopefully it's just a bit clearer, or maybe there's a bit more, a little bit more crunch and depth to it. But the rules themselves, it's fairly well spaced out. These are fairly easy to learn games, and they have all the scenarios in the back. Attack and defense. Now it's duels. Then scenario briefing. There's a campaign. You can kind of link things together. So there's a campaign sheet of keeping track of different things, different events if you're playing the campaign, what happens between each one, and then some bits and pieces of paper in the unit roster that you're going to photocopy and fill out. Because this game is one where you construct your fighting forces and then you execute missions. What we'll do is we'll kind of keep going through here. So we have the missions in a separate booklet here. The bag is it's the perfect size, so it's a little bit tight getting some of these out. So these are the missions, and we'll get there. But basically, there's a board that you're going to progress through. There's going to be some random bits and pieces that happen, but then enemy forces are going to go through an AI through this enemy activation, depending on how many there are, and they're going to either move and attack or retreat or defend, depending on the mission parameters. And each of these scenarios gives you the different parameters and the different setups as well. So there's different terrain types that could be available, and you're going to roll a die. So for example, in this one, in stripes 1 and 2, because there's 6, you're going to roll a d6. On a 1, you're going to place woods. On a 2, 3, or 4, you're going to place, I believe that says field, but I can't tell upside down. On a 5, trees. On a 6, a wall. So your mission setups won't ever actually be identical, because there's so many options that it could be, and then you're going to roll to put in different target groups of what enemy starts there, or you're going to make presence checks and they're going to show up, if that's the case. And then there's obviously setup and the different events that could happen, and your victory conditions. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, interesting, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's a lot. That's more than the previous titles, I think. So there's a lot of more different scenarios in here. But for a solo game, 13 scenarios in a effectively a folio game, that's not bad. So I think one of the new things in this is we have this dueling track, which this is something I am interested in. I guess your leaders can get into duels, and you have a number of stamina, a number of rounds. I'd be interested to see if you can like choose your weapons, if it's melee weapons, or if you're going to walk paces and shoot each other. Could be very interesting. Is there anything on the back? Yes. Okay, good. This is the battle board. This is what you're actually going to play on. So there's those stripes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're gonna progress through the stripes if you're attacking, or if you're defending. You know, you're gonna maybe falling back whilst the enemy attacks you. So you roll that die, and in each of these stripes you're gonna place a little terrain marker, and then you'll make presence checks wherever you are to see if the enemy shows up, and then how many and what type, basically. And then the duel, like, I guess, because it's on the back, you can't play this and this at the same time, so this is probably something that happens separately. Oh, you know, you do a couple missions, and then someone, you know, you have to fight a duel or something, maybe. Okay, so here's our army composition sheets. So if you're playing, for example, as Britain, this is the cost of all of your different units and their special abilities. So you have a number of battle points per mission, or build points. Usually it's like 15, for example, for a small party table. So you got 15 points of which to buy these units. So you might get musket and bayonets, musket and bayonet veterans. They cost more. There's rifle units, pistol sabers, leaders, guys mounted with carbines, things like that. So you've got line infantry, all the way down grenadiers, officers, Highlanders, nice, and then hussars. So you're basically building your force, then executing the mission, whatever it would be. So there's Britain, there's France, and you can see the units are different. So they have cuirassiers, they also have dragoons, but there's stuff like they don't have the Highlanders, for example. Like the army compositions are different. We have NPC units. I'm not going to worry about those for now. Okay, that just looks like it's a notation of how to use the other ones, but NPC, I'm not sure about that one there. Austro-Russian forces, and then we got Prussians as well. So you can play any of these missions, and that's the thing about this game is basically you can pick a mission and you can play it as any of these forces, and you just, you know, the narrative just changes as to what side's doing what, basically. But the missions are generic enough where you're just executing a mission. So they're not necessarily founded in, like, this is a historical battle or an engagement that happened. This is like the ford, you're trying to ford a river. This is the farm, you're fighting over a farm. Yeah, free the prisoners. You're going somewhere, freeing prisoners, getting out. That's the objective. It's generic enough where, oh, the British are trying to free people, or, oh, I'm the French and I'm trying to free them from the British. You know, it's generic enough where you've got between the randomized terrain setups and unit activations and the different forces that you can buy and build in different factions, where if you were so inclined, you can play this game a significant number of times and iterations before you would ever see exactly the same experience again. So that's all of that. Let's look at the units, because I think that's all that's left here. And I think this is... So we've got 4 of these kind of half counter sheets. And I'm going to be careful, because some of these feel like they're falling off the sprue already. Okay, where do we start? Well, let's start with some of these counters here. Fields, it was fields, okay. So these are those terrain markers. You're going to roll those dice and put them out on each of these stripes. And these are the kind of your typical tiny battle publishing ones. They punch out, they're pre-rounded, these are very big, they're kind of 1-inch counters. But you get a couple nubs on the corner, on the sides, I mean, of some of them. You can cut those off, no big deal if you're so inclined. We have a bunch of numeral markers, 1 through 10. And then we have some veteran markers for different units. So these are going to go face down, and then when you encounter them, you flip it over, it gives you a number. You reference the number with kind of enemy forces and bits and pieces like that. Or I think, are these for events? These are for events, I think. A special event happens, but you don't know what it's going to be before you go in there, basically. We have some other admin markers. We've got unloaded markers, we've got shaken markers, unloaded +5, and some cover markers. We got pistols, and we've got enemy player, interesting. I guess those are probably more for, how would you say that? For those duels, maybe? Or maybe that's units that have dehorsed and they've only got pistols. And, some square formation markers, but these are generally fairly nice markers. The actual units we've got here, let me get this right around. So we've got some French units up here, and some British ones. You can see they've got their, they've got kind of the uniform in the background, and they got a silhouette of what the unit would look like with a name, and they have an alphabetical identifier. The alphabetical identifier is just to distinguish between them. So you might have a bunch of line infantry, but you've got them all in, you know which one's which and who's been injured, because you're going to keep track of those. If you remember, on our little force unit roster, they used to give you these in like a card, but I guess we're just going to photocopy off the back of the rules, which is fine. It's also got the turn track and a bunch of our charts and modifiers on there, but that's something that you have to photocopy before you start actually playing the game, so make sure you got that. Probably you can print it off online. There's probably a file for those if you don't have a photocopy. I would imagine there would be. But yeah, these are what the units look like. They're decent enough, especially for what you get. And then we have on here more of these. I think they were we had the these green ones, those NPCs, maybe, because they kind of match here. But we had our Prussians, and we had the Austro-Russian as well, which is kind of an interesting amalgamation of all those, I guess. But those are the units. But that's what you get in here. I'm interested to play this because the Ardennes and the Pacific ones, you're building a World War II squad. So you have anywhere from like 6 to 10 guys at most, and it's individual. They're almost individual counters. Like, oh, this is a man. You know, this is a machine gunner. You might have a tank if you were so inclined. So here it's larger formations. So I am interested to see how this translates into a different scale. And I think the change in periods and make me nice and refreshing. I do feel like this is more rules than the other one, so I hope that means there's maybe a bit more crunch and a bit more complexity to it. The other ones are fine, they're really good intro solo games, but it'd be nice to get a bit more meat out of this system, because it's a fun, engaging little system. You play, once you've built your army, you literally play on one sheet, and you've got that unit roster, and then you have a number of counters. So it's a really portable game as well, which I also appreciate. If you can get a nice meaty game that's portable, that's nice. You can take it places, you can store it easily, you can kind of stuff it on the side of your desk and play a little bit. So that's nice. But yeah, that's Rifles in the Peninsula. We've been looking forward to this one for a while, finally got a hold of it. So if you're interested, it is available from Tiny Battle Publishing. They have on the back of here that you had Devils to Pay, which is Herman Luttman's First Day at Gettysburg game that comes in a box. This one's in a bag. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.